The show Lizard Lick Towing was loud, chaotic, and impossible to ignore. Every episode felt like it was on the edge of losing control, filled with intense confrontations, wild repossessions, and personalities that refused to back down. It pulled viewers in with its unpredictable energy, making it feel like anything could happen at any moment. Then suddenly, without warning, it was gone. No dramatic farewell, no final episode to close the story. Just silence. Fans were left confused, wondering how something so popular could disappear so quickly. But behind that quiet ending was a much deeper story, one that goes beyond television ratings and scripted drama into real-life struggles, personal loss, and a reality far more serious than anything shown on screen. When Lizard Lick Towing first aired in 2011, sure, it didn't take long to grab attention. At its core, the concept seemed simple. It followed a small towing and repossession company, showing what happens when people fail to make payments and their vehicles are taken back. But the simplicity was deceptive. What made the show stand out was not just the job, but the way it was presented. Every situation felt explosive. Every interaction carried tension. The people involved were not quiet or reserved. They were loud, direct, and completely unfiltered. That combination turned ordinary situations into something that felt intense and unpredictable. Viewers didn't just watch the show casually, they became invested, waiting to see how each situation would unfold and who would come out on top. At the center of the show were Ron Shirley and Amy Shirley, a couple whose personalities defined everything viewers saw. Ron brought a loud, commanding presence, while Amy added a level of toughness and control that made her impossible to overlook. Together, they created a dynamic that felt both chaotic and balanced at the same time. Alongside them was Bobby Brantley, whose presence helped ground the show. He added a different energy, one that balanced the intensity of the main duo. This mix of personalities created a rhythm that made each episode feel complete. Without that balance, the show would not have worked the same way, and viewers quickly became attached to how these characters interacted with each other. What made the show even more interesting was how real it felt. It was often described as actuality television, meaning it was not completely scripted, but not entirely raw either. Or the business itself was real. The people were real. The situations were often based on actual events. But the way those moments were presented was carefully shaped. Scenes were extended, reactions were intensified, and emotions were pushed higher to create more dramatic impact. At first, this blend worked perfectly. It made the show exciting without breaking the illusion of reality. But over time, viewers started to notice. Questions began to rise about how much of what they were seeing was genuine and how much was being adjusted for entertainment. Once that doubt entered the audience's mind, it slowly began to change how the show was perceived. As the seasons went on, the same formula that made the show successful started to work against it. The drama became more noticeable, and the realism began to feel less convincing. Our viewers were no longer just watching for entertainment. They were analyzing what they saw. The internet played a big role in this shift. Discussions started appearing online, with people questioning scenes, pointing out inconsistencies, and debating whether certain moments were staged. This growing awareness created a gap between what the show presented and what the audience believed. Once trust begins to fade in a reality-based show, it becomes very difficult to recover. The excitement is still there, but the connection starts to weaken. And for a show built on tension and authenticity, that change can quietly begin to pull everything apart. At the same time, television itself was going through a transformation. What worked in 2011 did not necessarily work a few years later. Networks were constantly searching for new formats, new ideas, and fresh ways to keep audiences engaged. Reality television was becoming more competitive, with new shows pushing boundaries and offering different kinds of entertainment. In that environment, even a successful show could quickly feel outdated. Lizard Lick Towing was still recognizable, still loud and dramatic, but it was no longer as unique as it once was. The market had changed, and the audience had changed with it. This shift didn't happen overnight, but slowly it began to affect the show's position and its ability to hold on to the same level of attention it once commanded. One of the most important turning points came when Bobby Brantley stepped away. He wasn't just another cast member. He played a major role in balancing the energy of the show. His presence helped create structure within the chaos. Without him, something felt off. And the interactions between the remaining cast members changed, and the chemistry that once made the show feel natural started to shift. Viewers noticed the difference, even if they couldn't fully explain it. Shows like this rely heavily on relationships, not just action. When one key piece is removed, the entire dynamic can feel different. That subtle change added to the growing list of reasons why the show was no longer connecting with audiences in the same way. Unlike many shows that end with a big finale or a clear announcement, Lizard Lick Towing faded out quietly. There was no major scandal forcing it off the air, no single moment that marked its end. Instead, it was a gradual process. Ratings declined, interest shifted, and eventually the show simply stopped being produced. For fans, this kind of ending can feel even more confusing than a dramatic one. There's no clear reason to point to, no final closure. Just the realization that something they once followed closely is no longer there. But in reality, this kind of ending is common. It happens when multiple small changes build up over time, slowly bringing something to its natural conclusion. Long before television turned it into a spectacle, the story of Ron Shirley and Amy Shirley was already in motion. The towing business didn't appear overnight. It started in 1998 with a single truck and grew step by step through years of effort. It was built through consistency, patience, and hard work. Amy was not just a supporting figure. She played an active role, bringing discipline and strength into the business. Together, she said they created something stable long before any camera showed up. This part of the story is often overlooked, but it's important, because when the show ended, the business itself did not disappear. It continued just as it had before, proving that the real foundation was never the television show, but the work behind it. So while the show may have disappeared from television, the real story didn't end there. In many ways, that was only the beginning of a different chapter. Life after the spotlight brought new challenges, new directions, and in some cases, deeply personal struggles that were far more serious than anything shown on screen. The cameras captured the chaos, the arguments, and the action, but they never fully showed what was happening behind the scenes or what would come later. And as time went on, the reality of life outside television proved to be far more intense, emotional, and unexpected than anything viewers had seen before.